Are are we live? Yes, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a good old-fashioned classic Saturday stream. Today, as many of you could probably say, we are getting right back into Dungeons and Dragons story time. Something with a little less attention getting put on all y'all's end, as we will not be doing language lessons today. Just a couple of hours of hearing what happens next with the intrepid heroes exploring the world of Daorum. But, but, before we get into our next little tale, I wanted to ask how everybody is doing. How's everybody's weekend shaping up? Any news coming out? How are you all? Darness, I heard you had a little bit of a mix up at work today, forgetting what day of the week it was. And Marciel, I'll hopefully finish it during or at the end of the stream. A weekend gift, one could say. Well, it seems like we might have a little bit of a special thing to show off, depending on what Marciel gets done. No language lessons? I'm sorry, crazy. I am here, yes. Wow, glad to hear it, little pink Bowser. Well. Seems like we have quite a crowd gathered today. Excited to hear a story of Dungeons and Dragons, I imagine. Whoa, that is a long baby moth. But, if there's no other big news for anyone to announce. Also, I said that I wanted to go eat with my friends today. Guess what? One got sick. We have to postpone it. I'm sorry, Marcial. I mean, good choice for postponing. Could you imagine going through these 2 years of fucking COVID rules and then immediately when things are changing somewhere or rules are starting to get lifted, you get knocked on your ass by a flu? Ugh. Honestly, I have enjoyed going 2 years without a cold. There's been something just a little reprieve about that, you know? More time to work on the tardy then. Ah, gosh. Don't worry, Marcel. You got people cracking the whip, I suppose, trying to get this cursed creation alive. But, there we go. Got ourselves a nice little cozy spot, a big warm fire, and a new chapter to tell. But I think we have some first time viewers out there, or perhaps just some first time chatters. All of you hanging around, either lurking or the like. I hope you end up enjoying the story. Because, as always, we will have to begin with a bit of a recap. Trying to cover what happened last time. For those who are just joining, for those who need a reminder, and for those who like the stage to be fully set. So, where to begin? Ah, yes. During our last story time, the party had made the decision to take the western road through the mountains, taking the shorter, the more arduous route, a path not taken often, and in fact with rumors stating that no traders had come up it in the past several weeks. The party was not deterred, though. They wished to get this journey done as quick as possible, and with a band of mercenaries being the ones they are guiding, any common trouble would likely steer clear of a large group of adventurers. So they made their way into the mountains and disappeared into those dark, gorges that made up the mountain path. Most of the day was spent in shadowy darkness. The massive walls on either side of the narrow path they followed, blocking out the sun, save for a few hours of the day. In that strange, twisting darkness, the party began to see movement in the shadows, hear sounds all around them, and see sights that reminded them of their dark pasts. Things would only grow worse during the first night they decided to camp. Leaving people on watch, Tortuga and Rasmussen would find themselves reeling about in the night, chasing shadows moving just at the corner of their vision, hearing sounds and finding strange holes carved into the side of the mountain, only large enough to peer through, into strange, narrow pockets behind the stone walls. Unbeknownst to them, though, were the dreams befalling those who had decided to sleep instead of keeping watch, particularly the nightmares of Malachite. In her dreams, she saw her past, saw the day she became a slave, saw the day she was freed. But these dreams, though of sad and joyful times, would always twist in the end. At a dinner table, the party would morph into massive insect-like creatures that would grab at her with their sharpened claws, lifting her overhead and impaling her on the roast spike so that they might gorge themselves upon her. After this first night, the party would quickly notice Malachite's growing exhaustion, the sweat that soaked through her lethargic and quiet nature growing deeper as they traveled. In the dark of the next day's journey, things would become more and more horrifying. Hallucinations, movement, sounds, and with party members pulling into themselves, the horror could only grow. It was at the second night, as Malachite tossed and turned during her next nightmare, that she would be awoken by Rasmussen. She would explain what would happen in her dreams, and looking her over, they would discover some of the injuries from her dreams had come to life. Looking about, the party would begin waking the mercenaries and tell them they were not to be sleeping tonight, that something in this darkness seems to be attacking them in their sleep, in their dreams. Slowly, they would break the camp, bring everything into the wagon, wake all those who they could, and begin to head out from this campsite. All would gather as quickly as possible, save one of the mercenaries, who seemed too lethargic to get out of his bed. Malachite would go to see what had befallen the man, and would find him groaning, sat up, in a near catatonic state. In an attempt to wake him, she would strike him across the jaw, and would watch and listen to the sickening pop that came from the joint, see as his jaw began to distend, and the horror would grow as the flesh at his cheeks and lips would begin to tear and rip away. Beneath it, dark green ichor would flow as insectoid mandibles would begin to unfold from his now ruined esophagus. Outside the tent, the party would see approaching figures in the dark, strange bipedal creatures with mandibles, dripping claws, and a horrific aura about them. As they'd run at the camp, everyone would prepare for battle. As within the tent, Malachite would be forced to kill the creature that pulled itself from the now hollowed out husk that was one of the mercenaries. And so the party's combat with the mean locks of the mountain pass would begin. In this battle, they would learn the creatures possessed paralytic claws. And, with the paralyzing of Pharaoh, the group's cleric, they would watch as the bugs begin to drag her towards the stone wall, and one by one the creatures would attempt to teleport into the stone, disappearing into the deep caves within. But in a desperate last attempt, the party would rush the final creature whose claws held tight to Pharaoh, who was about to make way with their prize, stun him, and splatter its innards across the walls. It would take but a few moments for the party to gather themselves, to prepare to leave, and to start to head out. Though, as they traveled through the night, Rasmussen, the party's fighter, would collapse, seemingly passed out. Unable to risk his dreams infecting him, the party threw him into the wagon and continued their movement, hoping that maintaining a pace would prevent these creatures from whatever horrors they might inflict. As the sun would rise, the darkness of the gorge would remain, but now with a clear sky, Tortuga would peer behind them and see a trail of thrown dirt and dust in the air. Some rider or group was approaching them rapidly. The party would attempt to kick themselves into high gear, but deprived of sleep, wounded from battle, their exhaustion would begin to eat away at their speed. Step by step, they would move slower and slower until they were forced to a halt as a new group of meanlocks stood before them on the road. This next fight would prove far more difficult than the first. Deprived of one party member due to unconsciousness, another desperately weakened by exhaustion, and others unable to use spells or abilities that would have required a greater amount of rest. The party found themselves clearing out several of the meanlocks, with the last handful, though, circling, looking for that opening weakness. They would hear approaching hoofbeats as a lone rider came around the bend and down the road in their direction. A lone elven woman, covered in tattoos and scars, wearing light leathers, she would jump from her horse and draw a pair of rapiers. Pointing the first at a pair of the creatures, a jet of fire would emerge from it, harpooning through the first creature and scorching the second. Drawing her second blade, she would look around at the group and say, "Well, I think I have arrived just in time, don't you?" In response, the exhausted Malachite could only look at the strange new arrival and ask, "Who's this bitch?" "This bitch is here to save you." With that, the elvish woman would jump into the fray and assist in the slaying of the last two of the meanlocks. With this group of creatures slain, and with only a half-day's travel left before they would clear the gorge, the party loaded everything they could into the wagon and pushed themselves yet harder. No rest would be had, for distance would need to be traveled, and questions for this new arrival would have to wait. And with that, I believe we are caught up on last stream's story. The party has made it through the main encounters with the meanlocks, though perhaps another still lies ahead of them, or if they cannot maintain this speed, perhaps they will be eventually caught. They have a new arrival that none of them recognize, who saved them from a meanlock, but still, a lone elvish rider on the road, wielding fire magic and swords, is certainly a rare sight. Something to be wary of in the most dire of times. Furthermore, even once the party makes it through this mountain pass, a day's travel through the ethereal valley itself still remains. And in that Feyen wood, who knows what other dark horrors might emerge. But is that any way to talk to a person who just saved you? Well, Malachite has always been a bit of a rougher person. She has a tendency to be rather blunt and base at times, though certainly good at cutting to the heart of an issue. Finds it much more difficult to be cleverly diplomatic at times. But with the recap out of the way, how is everybody feeling? Are you all comfortable? Placed in your seats? Do you have something to drink or a bit of a snack? For we have some hours of story ahead of us, tales to get through, and a protector of the Feywild to meet. Are you all feeling ready and settled? Excited to learn about these new arrivals? I'm perfectly ready. Hell yeah, Darness. Excited to hear it. Wow. Did you shove more monsters on them to introduce her as a hero? I mean, there was always going to be multiple encounters with the Meanlocks. I certainly made her arrival to be convenient. Though, Marciel, I will have you know, Valandria is a player character. Not a DMPC, if that's your concern. Simply someone who arrived and wished to play. And since we had an opening made, was fine enough to slot in. Mal be the party negotiator? Alright, Lotus. For those unaware, Lotus Flower Tea is actually one of the players from this campaign. And in fact, he is the one who plays Tortuga, our wood elf monk. So if during the story any of you have any questions for him, please feel free to ask. And today there might be a good time to ask, as Tortuga ends up getting himself into and out of quite a spot of trouble today. But the recap away, with everyone prepared and with excitement growing, I suppose now is the time to descend into our tale. The party pushes itself through a second night without sleep. They push their horses, the wagon themselves, as hard as they can. Rasmussen, unconscious in the wagon. Malachite, being deprived of more nights of sleep than anyone else, is slowing more and more. And the party can hear the chittering spreading through the walls. Eventually, they bring the wagon to a halt and then tell Malachite to get in the wagon. This will strain the horses even more and might reduce their overall speed. But on foot, Malachite is already setting the slowest pace. So it'd be best for her to rest as much as possible, particularly if another fight is needed. Pushing on, the party continues. Looking above them through the opening in the gorge, they can see the bright sunny skies above. It is day, but the light is unable to pierce down enough. They are cloaked in darkness, with the sunlight in sight, but unreachable. Pushing themselves on harder and harder, they feel the sweat soaking them through, the horses resisting. But then in the distance, a light can be seen, right in the darkness of this near cave-like gorge. A place where the gorge ends and the mountains overlook the forest valley of Ithoriel. Pushing themselves on, they hear the chittering growing louder and louder, and as one member glances behind them, they see movements in the dark, glowing insectoid eyes gaining. As the party breaks into one final sprint, they clear the mouth of the gorge and emerge on a cliff face, where the mountain trail comes around a bend and overlooks the open valley below. A steep cliff drops down, and relief fills each member as they step from the tunnels into the open air. Their first true bathing of sunlight in days. As each member emerges, they draw their weapons and turn about to the small entrance to the deep gorge of the mountain paths. They see the glowing blue eyes moving towards them, and then stop at the edge of where the sunlight pierces into the darkness. The Meanlocks chitter and twitch, looking at the exhausted party. They feel themselves at the edge of collapse. But as the creatures look down at the light, they chitter and recede into the shadows, much like the hallucinations and nightmares. With the light of day, the Meanlocks retreat. Breathing deeply, in exhaustion, and fear, and whatever runs through each party member, weapons drawn, they stare at the mouth of the gorge for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15. And thence, when all seems safe, they collectively collapse to the ground, breathing heavily. They are safe from that dark nightmare. The party spends the next hour simply trying to fight off passing out, while they will be making camp as soon as they can, right at the mouth of that darkness where the Meanlocks live, feels unadvised. And so they all find themselves groaning and straining themselves to their feet to move at least an hour's walk away, further down the trail, before they eventually set up their tents and collapse, finally finding rest, even in the full light of day, on the cliff face, looking down into the valley of the Fey Forest. None of them care, as their relief drives the adrenaline out, and one by one, they fall into a well-deserved sleep. Some hours pass before members begin rousing themselves. Little more than a power nap in truth, but without dreams or nightmares at all. Many members are immediately relieved by the freedom of the sunlight around them, and begin taking in their surroundings, checking their supplies and equipment, doing everything they had been too out of mind to do for the past few days of travel. Tortuga finds himself standing on the edge of the cliff and looking across the deep valley that this massive forest spans. Below them, stretching onward and onward, the party can see the vast canopy of forest trees of the Ethereal Valley. And looking down the mountain pass, they see as the cliff face grows shorter and shorter as it goes around bend and cut back. It seems the mountain pass over the next few days should take them down into the Ethereal Valley before the final stretch, rising back up into the country of Taverthia. But now free of the harder upper path of the mountains, the party relax. Speaking with the mercenaries that hired them, everyone is more than willing to spend the rest of the day simply camped out here. Everyone needs some time to clear their minds, to gather their thoughts, and to prepare for another 2 to 3 days journey before their destination. As the party sets full camp, relaxes against the walls of the mountain, and set about making themselves a lunch, everyone begins looking at the new arrival with more discerning eyes. Before them is perhaps a middle-aged high elf, one that has seen quite a deal of battle and conflict. She wears light leathers and many scars. The most notably are the strange, coiling, drifting, and irregular tattoos that paint themselves up her arms, onto her shoulders and chest. The twin fencing blades on either hip stand ready and gleaming. "Well done," Tortuga says. "I suppose we owe you a bit of a thanks, and also, who are you?" The woman looks about the party. A sudden expression of shock and surprise paints itself across her face. "Oh my God. I just realized I never actually introduced myself to any of you. I'm so sorry. My name is Velandria, and I believe I have been in search of you all." She smiles as she kind of holds her hands out, an expression of greeting, welcome, and excitement. And while at first the party seemed receptive to her introduction, their expressions grow a bit concerned as they realize the exact meaning of her second statement. "You were, looking for us." Oh, I'm sorry. I do not mean to say that I am, hunting you or I am after you or anything. No, I took a job in Corella to deliver a package. Oh, just one moment. The illusion, perhaps, of a hardened mercenary begins to be stressed a bit by Valandria's carefree and excitable manner. There's a definite hard edge to her, a mercenary-like feel, but as she speaks, she seems more excited than most mercenaries tend to be. Happy, jovial energy about her. A strange combination, to be sure. More strange, however, to the party is what she pulls from her saddlebags and presents to them all. A box wrapped delicately in bright green and red wrapping paper, a golden bow laced around it, all the corners clean and crisp, or at least had been at one time. Being placed in a saddlebag, the package has definitely seen better days, though a few wrinkles and a smashed corner are still impressive, considering the mode of transportation. I I was sent to deliver this from a very strange woman from Corella. Let me guess, said Tortuga. Pulamonte woman. Kinda noble, blonde hair. Very, eccentric? Valandria nods slowly. That exactly. A woman named Aquila, I believe. That's her, Tortuga says, shaking his head slowly. Malachite steps forward and accepts the package. She begins immediately unwrapping it, pulling the ribbon off and ripping apart the paper into shreds, revealing a small wooden box beneath. One thing, if asked, would you all be so kind as to state that the package arrived in the perfect condition? It's required for me to receive my full pay. The whole party looks about and nods. None of them really care much for a wrinkle or two in the wrapping paper, and they are more than willing to help out a fellow traveler. Opening the box, inside Malachite finds a stacked collection of interesting items. 4 small wooden envelope-like structures, somewhere between a box and simply something to hold paper. It seems the party were sent 5 sending envelopes. Strange magical items that will allow a user to place a paper inside and to immediately have it teleported to a receiving box. Useful for communication, and not nearly as expensive as sending stones, which allow immediate vocal communication. Inside, Malachite also finds a pair of earrings for herself, a gift from Aquila, as well as a small jeweled headband for Pharaoh. Handing them over, the party thank Valandria for the delivery. And if I may, I was told that to receive my payment, she would like one of you to use one of the sending boxes to inform her that the package made it to you. Hey, Halfrost. Thank you for the tier 3 resub. Bro, you really start streaming as I go to bed. Can't wait to get back to the States. Love you, bro. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Halfrost. I'm sorry. But I hope you get a chance to get back to the States as soon as possible. And I'm glad you were able to make it here to give a quick hello. You heading off right now, or you going to be joining us for a short amount of time? Either way. The party agrees and allows Malachite to begin writing the message. They watch as she writes a short letter stating that the package had been delivered and in perfect condition, and then both her and Pharaoh absolutely love their gifts. Then they all watch as Malachite begins spending some time drawing out a little doodle of herself. A small little green girl wearing her usual clothing, and with very bulky attempts to draw the earring gifts that have been granted to her. She then places the envelope, or the letter, inside one of the wooden packages and breaks the box over her knee, causing it to immediately ignite in a magical flame as it consumes the paper, sending it off to be received. A few moments later, the party watches as one of the other boxes in their package begins to glow a strange orangish color as embers begin to flow from it. They watch as a paper appears. Pulling it out, they see there's actually a stack of papers. The first is the contract for Valandria, stating it has been achieved and granting her 300 gold pieces for a job well done. Valandria accepts this and thanks the party for allowing the transaction to be easy. Second is a quick note stating that Aquila is glad the party is safe and hopes their travels are going well, that she has begun making quite a few friends within the elven court, and actually has a few jobs available should they ever find themselves in Corella again. She would be more than happy to invite them to work for her in the future. The final bit of paper they find is a copy of the note or the doodle that Malachite had made. They see the small little girl with her earrings has been returned, but over top of the picture, they see the bright red stains of a lip kiss. It seems Aquila had just reapplied some makeup and kissed the small doodle of malachite before sending it back to her. In gratitude, Malachite takes the little doodle with its new addition, folds it up, holds it to her chest, and tucks it away. It seems she has a new gift she treasures even above the earrings. The party then places away these items. Turning back to Valandria, they ask her a few questions about her journey, about tracking them down, and how she had found them. Valandria explains that she was told the location they would be going to, and she knew there were only two main routes to Diverfia. Excuse me. However, she says that she didn't expect them to take the mountain pass that would lead through Thorial Valley, as it's most frequently avoided. But Aquila did provide her with a basic description of the party so that she might find them. The party nods and they begin joking back and forth, wondering what Aquila had written about each of them. As they begin pressing Valandria for more questions, her ears begin to glow a pinkish color and her cheeks burn slight red. That only encourages them to ask more and more, until eventually Valandria pulls out a folded up piece of parchment and hands it to one of the party members. Looking it over, one by one, each of them begin to blush themselves at some of the descriptions Aquila Ondorana had written about them. For the letter read, "They are a very rugged yet refined group of skilled mercenaries. Though seemingly eclectic, their notable differences only serve to highlight their deeply professional qualities. A true group of adventurers forged by shared strategy and hardship, they stand unique and weathered, yet eager to pursue their noble ends. Firstly is the roguish and very experienced Rasmussen. He is an experienced dwarf of many talents, cordial yet succinct. His heritage shines through him in his openness and professional demeanor. He is marked by years of rough work, the demeanor of a man pulling such great weights every day, but honestly pleased when he sees a stranger on the roadside. A man smiling at the world, revealing the harsh sun and cruel dust that leaves him tickled to be alive. Next is the cloaked and mysterious Tortuga. He is a wood filled with dark mysteries. One could simply become lost in the swirling angst of his eyes, pondering his dark past. He holds no outward affections yet, wrapped in only a cloak, throws himself into the path of danger to protect his charges with all his might, like a fair champion of mysteries. You can tell him by his aloofness to affection, yet simple striving to embrace those around him with his very presence. Next is the lone figure of a man. Birch is a staggeringly tall figure with great heft to his step and manner. A skilled fighter and champion of the battlegrounds, his armored exterior represents the great barriers within himself, used to close off all who may harm him. He is strong and alone, the perfect dark stranger. The unparalleled Pharaoh, an Aarakocra filled with the air of passionate devotion. She is that shimmering dawn or sunset that blinds one, yet leave you unable to look away. Her own being is so controlled and focused that one is left unquestioning of her abilities and beliefs when in her presence. And finally, is the captivating Malachite. She is the great allure of the group, a small yet strong figure, bound in her own mind by hopes for greatness. She is pulled along by wicked winds of fate, yet she stands stable and as beautiful as a lighthouse in the storm. She shines like a beacon, her simple word drawn from her harsh and unfair upbringing pushes her into a life of great turmoil. When you meet her, you are struck in awe by her beauty, and yet filled with the harshness of her. You will know her by her undying urge to let her protect you, while being drawn to guard her with all of your being. As the last party member places the note aside, there is a energy of embarrassment, of strangeness about the group. The feeling that might emerge once everyone had shared around a less than dignified storybook, one holding tales of young women and dark beasts in the night. All ears are pink, all cheeks are red, and a moment of silence passes as Valandria states. So it was a bit difficult to describe you properly to people. Valandria watches as people slowly begin nodding their heads, understanding the issues with trying to track down their group with only this description to work off of. She seems to be very nice. Everyone nods and simply tries to move past this letter, though not before noting Malachite taking this as well, folding it and placing it inside her own bag, likely to read again later. Finally, the questions towards Valandria steer away from her job, from how she found them, to who she is. A lone rider going through that mountain pass, the powers she exhibited. They ask her a bit about herself. Well, I studied magic within Corella for a few years, but I had to leave after a time, Valandria says. A moment of embarrassment flashing before her eyes as she moves on. And then I spend a bit of time in the arenas in Tournaments. After that, I ended up doing adventuring work for a time, before taking this job and being led to all of you. With that, Tortuga takes a moment to look Valandria up and down. Her movements in combat, her magical and physical prowess, her experience in an arena. Tortuga takes a moment and then says, well, how would you like a spar then? Much like the sun emerging from the gorge, Valandria's smile erupts from her face as she looks at this strange elf. I think I would quite enjoy a bit of a spa. Something a bit more honest than those insects could provide. And with that, the two find some space along the cliffside, mark out a circle, and prepare themselves for combat. Farah approaches and keeps a keen eye out. She states she'll stop it if she feels things get out of hand. But her words seem to fall on deaf ears, as Valandria's weapons are out of their holster, and magical energy begins to dance all up and down them. Across from her, Tortuga cracks his knuckles and stretches his legs, and takes a strange crouched position. Well then, my dear, shall it be on the count of 3, or whenever you are ready? I think the count of 3 makes sense. Well then, 1, 2. Both of them take a combat stance, preparing. The pride dances across Valandria's eyes as she measures this man. No magical abilities, no weapon in hand. This will be a good warm-up, though perhaps it might end a little underwhelming. 3, she states, and in a blur, Tortuga dashes across the dueling circle and arrives at Valandria in less than a second. Her shock is clearly visible to all the moment he arrives, in a blur, but it's only there for a second, for it is immediately masked by the first fist striking her jaw, then her chest, and as the third strike lashes out, Valandria crosses her blades as a magical shield appears in front of her and intercepts the final fist, catching it in the air. Well, you are very fast, she says. Thank you, Tortuga responds, before darting back the full distance of the dueling circle, immediately out of reach of any strike from Valandria. So, speed is your weapon then. Well, perhaps I can match it. With that, Valandria's movements seem to shift into a strange, erratic dance. Her blades flurling about her, her feet moving swiftly yet elegantly. She falls into a strange set of movements that begin to blur her appearance. Her speed increases. The flashing energies around her seem to grow in fervor to a crescendo as the magical energies fill her. She bounds across the pit and arrives at Tortuga, lashing out with her blades, striking back. One strike, a second strike. Tortuga blocks the first. The second lances across his arm, delivering damage. Not much, but a touch. And as the third lunge comes forward, Tortuga takes a step back, the blade ending less than an inch from his chest. A good guess, but no, she says, as Valandria gives him a wink, and he watches embers emerge and a fiery attack erupt out the end of the blade, catching Tortuga in his chest, sending him sprawling to the ground for a moment. As Valandria begins to dance backwards, she feels something strange, as the air is driven from her lungs. Looking up, where the young wood elf had fallen, she sees merely a cloud of dust. As she looks behind her, she sees what had caught her. The strike of his foot had hit her lungs from behind, driving the air out of her. She dances away and summons up her magical shield before her, and Tortuga presses on harder. First strike being caught by the magical shield, and his second one striking against it, causing it to shatter into light and energy. With that, Valandria presses back, her blades dancing, striking out once, twice, the third time catching Tortuga's leg, opening a new wound, causing him to drop down to one knee. Valandria presses forward, sensing the weakness. But too late, she sees the mistake. As Tortuga drops, his hands catch the dirt and push, causing him to lithely slip between her legs in a lunging jump. He arrives at the other side, landing on his hands, and in a dexterous mover, flips himself back to his feet and strikes out once, twice, and a third time with his fists. The first is caught by a blade striking into the side. The second is caught by Valandria casting a final magical shield. The last one, though, catches her straight in the jaw, causing her to reel back. Tortuga, realizing he can't allow her to go too far, begins dashing towards her, as Valandria levels both her blades. Glowing white-hot energy begins gathering, as a final spell begins to prepare itself. Well, it seems it will not be simple martial powers. I hope you can survive this, she says, as the flame begins to grow hotter as Tortuga dives towards her. Suddenly, all vision is cut off by a sudden fluttering of white feathers, as in between the two, Pharaoh has dove and spread her wings outwards. I think we should call it here, you two, Pharaoh states, looking at them one at a time, keeping herself fully separated. All right. I guess we could call it a draw then, Tortuga states. Valandria nods, drops the spell she was casting. Now she begins to take a step forward to shake Tortuga's hand, finds herself meeting the ground instead. She pushes herself up as she realizes that one of her legs has become entirely numb, that she lacks any magical strength left in her, and that she is on the verge of falling unconscious. Looking up, she states, I am impressed. I did not think someone could get quite this good of me without the use of spells. Tortuga gives a quick nod, as he too takes a step forward to shake her hand, and finds his legs unable to obey his commands. Suddenly, he collapses to the ground himself, and begins breathing deeply. To be fair, I don't think I have anything left in me. No, I. It seems that was a good time to call it, huh? Agreed. Pharaoh looks between the two entirely worn and beaten combatants, and shakes her head, before she begins setting to healing the pair, hoping nothing will attack them this night, as she is draining herself quite a bit, to bring the two back from the verge of unconsciousness. At night, the party is excited to welcome Valandria into the camp. Sharing their meals and a few stories, it seems the sparring was just the thing to break the tension, to show off what she can do, and to allow everyone to feel a bit more trusting of one another. As night begins to come to an end, Valandria and Tortuga volunteer to take first watch. Everyone else finds themselves asleep as the two sit on the face of the cliff, legs dangling over edge, looking down at the forest valley below. And there, in that night, we will be calling an intermission for a moment. I need a moment to drink some water, rest my throat, and prepare for the next bit of tale. So everyone relax and enjoy as we take ourselves a short intermission. But while we are, how is everyone doing? Seems we got a bit of a conversation about manga going on, or is it light novels? How is everybody doing? And welcome, Love Doctor. I'm glad you could make it to that dramatic reading. uh, 1 hour until the end of the stream, right? Yep, Marcial, we're calling intermission here, and we got 1 hour left. How's that drawing coming? How's everyone doing? And is anybody out there? After hurry up. All right. Have any questions? Either for me or for our friend, Lotus Flower, about what has been told so far. Anything any of you are curious about the party or about the duel? Or perhaps about what comes next? Painting up girlfriend stompy robots while I listen in. Hell yeah, Love Doctor. Fucking get it. Not really fantasy trash, but you read Monster number 8? Hold my cat as he keeps trying to jump out of my arms. I'm always confused on who the people are. I don't remember their names, though. I just remember their faces. Oh, okay. It's a lot of light novel. I have to say, I think earlier I saw someone talking about solo leveling. That's actually one I've read a bit of. I don't remember what chapter I left off on it exactly, but I think it's one of 2 light novels I made the attempt to kind of read through. Though I haven't gotten anywhere near the ending of the 2 that I'm currently reading. Which, for those who are interested, are ReZero and Solo Leveling. Oh. Alright. If you all will just give me a moment, I'm going to go ahead and go refill my water. So, we'll be right back, and we can continue ahead with the story. While I'm gone, Lotus, if you're still out there, why don't you let them know exactly how much help you ended up on by the end of that duel? Hello, hello. Well, I'm back. Got myself some fresh water, and it seems you all are still pretty deep into that light novel conversation. Hell yeah. Any really good recommendations out there for people who are curious of something new to find? I think that's mostly what you guys are talking about. Yeah, but glad to see y'all sharing that stuff. Hell yeah. So yes, as Lotus Flower Tea said, at the end of the spar, Tortuga had about 3 HP and no more key points left. However, on the flip side, Valandria had 1 HP and 1 spell slot left. It was honestly a duel that came down to whoever got the next hit in was definitely going to win. But oh, before I forget, be sure to DM me that language you worked on. All right, Love Doctor. If you'd like, I can actually just go ahead and drop a link right now in the stream. I'm always down to share. Even though I find it absolutely baffling how many of you are actually interested in looking at a full fantasy language. It's always it's always terrified me to a degree how people are able to learn languages. I am the type who suffers from an inability to really learn anything other than what I was taught from birth, basically. I took a year of German, 2 years of French, and absolutely none of it stuck with me. I grow stronger by eating. It's very good. I have sent a request. Oh, was that not just a viewer link? 1 second. All right. Okay. No. I see what happens. Forget that then. 1 sec, and I'll post that up right now for you. Give me just a moment. That way you don't have to wait for me to go look through my emails and everything. There you go, Love Doctor. Let me know if that one works for you. And once we get all that knocked out of the way, we'll go ahead and get right back into the story. So, let me know if that link works. Oh yeah, Love Doctor. I hope you enjoy the language of Scarpa. But, how many people in chat speak multiple languages? Hell yeah, y'all. While y'all are getting into that, I believe I should work on getting the mood back into the story. Night comes as Valandria and Tortuga look over the cliff to the ancient home of all elves. Valandria, a high elf, born in a far different country, having only come here to learn from the schools of Aethin, looks down at a forest she has only spent the recent years of her lives in. Tortuga, a wood elf, whose home is hard to remember at times, looks down at a forest he has never been to before now. One that holds only bad memories of an elf named Leaf Bayanil and his one encounter with the locals. As the two stare at a land that most elves would consider their ancestral home, but that neither of these two have any love for, a sound can be heard down the mountain path. A distant, echoing sound. Something heavy and wooden, stretching and falling. The pair of them stand and make their way down the cliff face a bit, looking out into the valley, down the roadway, trying to get any visual cue of what is causing these. It sounds as if trees are being felled in the distance. But the elves do not do any type of mass lumber work, nor would they grant permission for others to come and do such. The two remain quiet through the night, listening. The sounds grow quiet, less frequent, only happening every hour or so. But still, they come. As morning arrives, the party gathers up and speaks to the mercenaries, preparing for the final leg of their journey. 2 more days of travel. 1 more continuing along the mountain pass as it lowers itself down and into the Ethereal Valley. The next, through the Ethereal Valley and out into Taverfia, the nation of their final stop. As everyone gathers, Valandri and Tortuga stop as they both turn their ears upward. The party gathers around and asks what's happening as they explain that something is happening down the road, down in the valley, in the distance. Everyone stops and listens. And after a time, no sound can be heard. They move out. They're about an hour down the road when everyone stops as they hear the distant of a tree being felled. They continue along the way, always looking down the road, out in the valley, as suddenly the path takes a steep downward trend. For hours they travel, hearing these sounds, and then it grows quiet again. Everyone stops as they look down into the valley, down the roadway that cuts in a near straight fall into an area of trees on the outskirts of the wood. Looking below them, they see the valley floor and a collection of dead trees all around. Perhaps not dead, though that is the best description that can be placed upon them. Dozens upon dozens of trees make up a small area of wood around the trail that they follow. All of them entirely devoid of leaves, some of them without branches or twigs, some of them stretching up high, others squat and low. Everyone stares down into the strange, dead collection of leafless trees before Valandria steps up. I don't think we wish to be the first to explore what that is. Well, no, but this is the only road. Yes, but we all have other options, yeah? Valandria looks around. In confusion, most of the rest of the party looks at her as she states, right, not very magically inclined, are you? Just one moment, she says, as she begins an enchantment. Moving her hands, she places a hand out flat as magic begins to gather on the palm, forming itself into a small, long, slender shape. Eventually, her mutterings stop, and the energy forms itself into a small stoat, a ferret-like creature, smaller than a squirrel. It stands up on its hind legs, red, and looks around. This is Ulo, my familiar. He has eyes, ears, and tends to follow my orders. Hello there, Ulo. How are you? Elandria says to the strange creature she has summoned. It chitters back at her, nuzzles to her face, then runs up her arm to wrap itself about the back of her neck. No, no, no. You are not being lazy right now. I have need of you to go explore and scout ahead of us. With that, Ulo nods, descends down her leg, and begins scampering down the road, out ahead of the party. Should anything happen, Ulo will let us know. So the party stops and looks down at the strange area of leafless trees that seem to surround the road perfectly ahead of them. Ulo descends down the hill, down the mountain, down to the valley, and spends a couple of hours journeying out ahead of them. At the end of the third hour, Valandria snaps her fingers, holds out her hand, as Ulo appears there. Now then, tell me everything that you saw. With that, Ulo begins squeaking and chittering at her. Valandria nods along, before placing Ulo back on her neck. Well, the trees are strange down there, all leafless, but just for a small stretch. And nothing attacked Ulo out of nowhere, so we should be mostly fine. Though we should make sure we are quick through there. The Athoria Valley is known to be enchanted. With that, the party begin moving again, heading down the steep path. They find themselves constantly slipping on the rocks and dirt, trying to send them cascading down the road into the valley, until they eventually arrive at the foot of their descent and begin moving along the flat grasslands below them. Suddenly, to their right, they see a leafless tree with almost no branches emerging from it. Then on their left, they see another. Then suddenly they find themselves in the depths of this strange leafless part of the wood. They look all around themselves as the energy of the ethereal valley begins pressing in, a malicious feeling of being watched, being unwelcome. These strange, dark trees only adding to the foreboding energy. Everyone feels themselves moving into a tighter formation as they march on. Dozens and dozens of these strange leafless trees press in all around them. As Tortuga turns to Valandria, he asks, So, have you ever heard of something called the Cursed Orchard? He remembers the thing the elven huntress had told him some days ago in that strange village. Valandria stops walking and looks all around her. Only vague rumors that it is a group of guardians for the Feywild. You don't think this? Looking about, the answer seems obvious. Slowly the party continues to move, until eventually they are brought to a dead stop. As directly in front of them, in the exact center of the road, grows a massive leafless tree, with a single hollowed knot in the front of it facing them, looking like an open maw. Everyone draws to a close, some distance away from the tree. This wood is not natural. These trees are not natural, and a single massive tree growing up in the middle of a road and never being cleared is not natural. They know something is wrong here. Oh, the figuring out of exactly what is not obvious. Until Malachi steps forward from the back of the group, standing a good 100 feet away from the tree. She looks it up and down, growing seemingly from the middle of the road. She looks at it and says, "You know I can see you, right?" Everyone's breath catches in their throats as two eyes appear on the tree. As the open knot that is its mouth begins to close, it looks about them. "Oh, well, I'm sorry. I didn't know you could see me." With that, suddenly voices can be heard all about the party. Looking around, they see all of these leafless trees begin to blink open their eyes, stretching their mouths and revealing maws filled with sharp, needle-like teeth. Suddenly, one tree, a little distance from the road, rips up one of its roots, stretches it forward, and begins to draw itself closer to the road. The party draws their weapons as this strange orchard of talking trees begins to move closer and closer. "Well then, hey you," says one of the trees. "You can't just ask someone who they are. They have to already know who they are. But don't you think they know who they are?" "I don't know. Do you know who you are?" A pair of trees begin having a strange, sidelong conversation. Another group of them in the back begins debating between themselves. "No, I told you today was my day to be telling riddles. It doesn't matter. We don't even know if we're getting to the riddles today." "Well, yeah, but I got a good riddle." "None of your riddles are good." "What do you mean? All of my riddles are good." "Yeah, what's a good riddle?" "Well, one of my favorite riddle." And the tree in the middle of the road draws up its roots as it begins moving closer to the party. "So wait, how did you see me?" "You're pretty big, my friend." "I know I'm big, but people don't usually see me." "That's because he's a real stealthy fella." "He is stealthy." "No, you're invisible." "What's an invisible?" "I thought we were invisible." "No, we're not invisible, we're trees." The conversations become confusing, a cacophony of noise, as all these strange trees begin talking back and forth, speaking over one another, speaking in circles, seemingly getting lost in their own conversations. Before, eventually, the tree in the middle of the road looks at the party and says, "Wait. No. You are supposed to be here. We're not supposed to let anyone through here." "Oh," said Malachite. "I'm sorry. Can we go through?" "Oh, yeah, I suppose that's a—" "No, wait," says the tree, having been taken slightly off balance by that. "I just said, no one is allowed through here, no matter what day it is." "Well, how was your day?" Malachite says. "Oh, well, my day was pretty good. Can't really complain too much. Had a squirrel crawl up into my door, so that was a fun little snack. I do like squirrels. I like squirrels, yeah. They're better than birds. I like birds." Another tree that seems to have silently crept over behind Pharaoh, the Aarakocra of the group, suddenly speaks up. "I like birds," he says to her. Pharaoh gives a polite nod, backing away from the strange pointed-toothed tree that seems to be staring at her. "But what? What were we talking about?" "You're about to let us through?" Malachite states. "Oh, that doesn't seem like me." "Do we ever let people through?" "No, I don't think we're supposed to let people through." "We do sometimes let people through," says another one. "Yeah, right when it's riddle time." "Oh, then that's what it was," says the tree in the middle of the road. He holds himself up more proudly than before. "If you wish this orchard to leave, Then you must answer these riddles 3. That doesn't rhyme. Shut up. I asked you if it rhymed. No, it's what they gotta do, isn't it? I mean, that's fine, but I like birds. We know you like birds, Todd. The trees begin descending into another cacophony of noise, seemingly losing their train of thought, almost distracting one another with each new layer of comprehensive incomprehensibility. One could imagine one or two of these trees having a clear train of thought. Perhaps not a complex one, but a clear one. But as the trees allow themselves to speak with one another, to speak over one another, their collective intellect seems to lower their ability to reason and speak. Until eventually silence is gathered again, as the tree in the middle of a road states again, "Now it is my turn to ask the first riddle." All the trees go silent. They begin muttering, "Oh yes, yeah, we should ask a first riddle, right? Once we get started, we can all ask riddles. Yeah, all of us will be asking riddles. Wait, but we only asked 3 riddles. How many of there are us? I think there's at least 3. You're probably right." With that, the center tree begins to clear its throat. "What grows bigger?" it says. "Oh, there's a good one. I like this one. Don't everything grow bigger? I like to grow bigger." "Yeah, I think the answer's a hole," says one. "The more you take..." "Did you just give away the answer?" the tree says, looking at another tree beside it. "Yeah, I like this one. This is the one that's a hole, isn't it?" Yeah, it's a hole, right?" All the trees begin debating amongst themselves. "It gets bigger the more you take away." "Yeah, a hole makes sense. Yeah, that does. Yeah, all right." "Yep, the answer is a hole," the tree says, nodding its head. The party stares on in stunned silence, as Malachite states, "So that's the first riddle." "Yeah, good job," the tree says, as another tree begins crawling its way towards the road. "I will ask the second riddle." "Shut up, Todd," says another tree. "I'll ask the next riddle." An entirely different tree crawls towards the road and looks Malachite in the eyes. "From what direction do all things come?" With that, all the trees begin quietly whispering to one another. "Oh, is that a new riddle? I've not heard that riddle before. Where did we come from? Where did we come from? Where are we?" Suddenly the trees seem a bit more preoccupied with one another. Even the tree asking the question turns around and starts talking to the one next to him, trying to remember where exactly they had come from. Malachite looks back at the party, who all seem baffled and lost at this moment. Malachite looks around and looks back at the tree. "Excuse me." Yes? What?" "I was just wondering, what's your favorite direction?" "Oh, my favorite... What's my favorite direction?" he says to the tree behind him. "Well, we all like that direction. Yeah, no, the sun is nice. I do like the sun. Yeah, but that's not where we came from, is it?" "No, it's not where we came from. Where did we come from?" "I think we were north before." "Yeah, I like it when we're north." The tree turns back to Malachite. "My favorite direction is north." The Malachite looks about and says, "Then the answer to your riddle is north." All the trees go dead silent. "What was the riddle?" "I don't remember. It was a new one, so I didn't know it." "That's right." "Oh." All the trees look back at the one who had asked the riddle, who seems to look about them all in a moment of confusion. "Oh, right. I asked the riddle. North, yeah. Yeah, I like north." "Your answer is correct," he says, as Malachite nods. All the trees begin saying "good job" to her, as the rest of the party behind Malachite begin taking seats on the wagon, staring at the strange interaction between her and this orchard of utterly baffling trees. "All right," says the main tree that had spoken first, as it approaches Malachite slowly. May I ask you the third riddle? Malachite looks at him for a moment and says, Yes, you just did. The tree is shocked. It looks to the tree next to it, then the tree on its other side. All the trees begin looking at the same tree, one off in the woods a little way. They all watch as he turns around to them. What? Was that the answer? Huh. Yeah. I guess it was. Was that 3? Yeah, that was 3. They answered all 3 riddles. Yeah. Congratulations. You have answered our riddles 3, and so may pass through us? Yeah, through us. Around us? Yeah, don't go through us, please. With that, all the trees begin nodding and moving off of the roadway a bit. Malachite proudly stands, turns around at the party as she states, I think I outsmarted them. She's very smart, says another tree. Oh, I like her. She's very nice, isn't she? The party began just blinking, confused at Malachite, seemingly proud in her befuddlement of the riddle masters. As the party begins to move, though, one tree holds up a branch and says, Wait, should we ask him the extra one? All the trees look about for a moment and say, Well, maybe. Do you think they want it? They wouldn't want to hear an extra riddle with it. They already answered all 3 riddles. We don't ask 4 riddles. Yeah, but we do have that extra riddle. They mutter between themselves before eventually one of them states, Yes, for a reward, we would like to ask you a 4th riddle. With that, the party stop and go, Are we still allowed to go through? Yeah, so you just for a reward. Yeah, it's just a special riddle. Special riddle. Yeah, I like the guy that gave us the riddle. Yeah, he was a weird fellow, wasn't he? Yeah, I still like him. The party shake their head, look at Malachite, and gesture for her to go ahead. All right. What's the last riddle? The trees grow silent as one of them stands forward, looks about, and says, Before the Fae the court arrange, all members here to speak, but one, it seems, has not arrived, and has been late for more than a week. The displacers stand apart from the dogs, the meanlocks and will-o'-the-wisps. You see the treants speak with quicklings, and the salamanders speak with the unicorns. And in the darkest corner of the room, the ropers stand aside. Tell us who's late, who is not here, and you shall win a prize, says the tree as it smiles wide. Malachite's mouth drops open as she stares at this tree in befuddlement. All the other trees are quiet, silent entirely. No mutterings or side conversations emerging. I don't, Malachite begins, as a voice cuts through everything from the wagon, as Valandria calls out, The Forlorn are missing. Everyone in the party turns to her for a moment. And at the same time as the trees around, all faces turn towards the tree that had asked. That's correct. With that, all the trees return to their side conversations, mutterings, congratulations, and discussions of a strange man who had given them the riddle some time ago. With that, the tree looks forward and says, "Well, I suppose then we should take you to the prize then. Do you not have the prize here?" "No, we hide the prize, so it's a little ways away. Any of you want to come get it?" "Well, I suppose I can. And our little riddle master should come with us too," Tortuga says, giving a soft punch to Malachite's shoulder. "We'll go get it and come back as quick as possible. You all stay with the merchants and make sure the trees don't eat anybody," Tortuga says. Suddenly one tree looks up. "Why, are we allowed to eat somebody?" "Oh, I didn't think we were allowed to eat people. Now they answer the riddles. Well, they're giving us someone to eat then. Oh, I don't think we can eat them. Wow, I could definitely eat them. Well, you better share them if you're eating them," they say. Shaking his head, Tortuga begins following one of the trees as it rips up its roots and drags itself through the forest, with Malachite following shortly behind. Valandria steps down from the wagon and approaches the first tree that had spoken. "That's written. That was just told. Where did you hear it from?" "Oh, from the guy that told it to us," says the tree. Yes. When did you hear it from him?" "Oh, a while ago. The last time he was here?" "Yeah, no, when he was here last is when he told us the riddle. Yeah, that was it." "I see," says Valandria, fighting back a very irritated look. "Would you be able to tell me what the man looked like?" "Oh," says the tree, as he begins to nod slowly, the nods changing into a shake. "No, I don't think I remember. Did you remember what he looked like?" "Oh, yeah, I remember. He came by and he told us the riddle. Yeah, a while ago. He was here and he told us the riddle." Valandria lets out a deep sigh, her fingers gripping her brow. "Right. That makes sense." She eventually returns back to the wagon, and she takes a seat, wondering, who knew the schools of the dancers? Some distance away, Tortuga and Malachite follow the strange tree as it crawls through the woods. It's a good half an hour walk before eventually the tree begins to slow as it enters into a clearing. Here they see another strange tree with no leaves on it, squat and wide. The first tree begins approaching it. "Hey, they answered the riddle, so we gotta give them the prize." With that, the tree's eyes open, and then its mouth does. "Oh, they got the riddle, really? Oh. Is it the man?" "No, he's not back. It's them who's got it." "Oh, all right," says the tree. Tortuga and Malachite watch, though, as the tree begins to shrink down on itself, until before them stands something that looks more like a massive boulder with eyes and a mouth. It stretches its mouth wide open, revealing its sharp teeth. As a dripping tongue emerges, it begins hacking and coughing before it spits up onto the ground a small collection of items. First, a pile of gems, seemingly glued together by the strange, hacked up material the creature produces. Next comes a sword, gleaming bright, silvery, with a strange purple handle. And then finally, the creature coughs up a small book onto the ground. "Oh, I think that's it," he says, as the strange ooze-like creature begins crawling away. "I'm gonna go hang out by the road." "Oh yeah, we're supposed to be by the road, aren't we?" says the tree that had guided them here. The two begin crawling away, leaving Tortuga and Malachite and this pile of strange items on the ground. Reaching over, Tortuga picks up the bundle of gems glued together by the creature's saliva and finds it takes some effort to pull his fingers away from them as they begin to stick to the stinking material as well. Then the two pick up the strange blade. Malachite looks it over a few times before placing it in her belt. It seems to be in perfect condition, shining and unmarred, something that begins to hint at some level of magical property. Finally, the two pick up the strange book, bound in what looks to be a material made of packed together bark and leaves, making a sort of rudimentary, near leather-like material. Opening the book, inside they find parchment with handwritten passages all across it. A journal written entirely in Sylvan. Well, thank you very much for handing me a bit of good fortune, said a voice from behind the two. As they turn about, they see a strange figure standing on a nearby tree branch, about 10 feet up in the air. His pointed ears hint at his elfish heritage. He wears a strange cloak and clothing all a dull grayish color with a leather-like texture to it, while on his face he wears a dark gray metallic mask, mesh covering the eyes. It holds a strange leathery feel to it, as the rest of his clothing yet reflects light like metal. I do appreciate greatly you all answering the folks' riddle. I've been having a time and a half convincing them to hand up anything, the man says. With that, he gives a lazy step off the branch as he falls down to the ground. In the movement, Tortuga and Malachite's eyes follow a strange silvery trail of light that seems to emerge from wherever the man has just moved from, trailing behind him like a strange after effect of his movements. How did the two of you do? I'm afraid I'm gonna be needing that book. Back on the road, the party has been waiting for quite a long time. Nearly an hour has passed when they begin hearing movements heading towards the road. Looking in, they see a pair of trees heading towards them, crawling by their roots. Yes, and that's how you can actually trick almost any squirrel you see into coming into your mouth. Oh, that's nice. I do like squirrel. Where are our friends? The laundry asks. Who? Our friends that you led to the prize. Oh, yeah. They were talking to the weird guy, says one of the trees. The who? Yeah, the guy who's been out there a while. He started talking to him. Melandria looks at the rest of the party, who looks back at her. And immediately, Melandria jumps on her horse and sets off into the woods at a full gallop in the direction that the rest of the party had disappeared. Perch and Pharaoh rise up, get down off the wagon, and begin running after her. For obviously, something is wrong. Ahead of them in the woods, Tortuga and Malachite look at this strange elf with this constant silvery trail behind him. I said, I'm going to be needing for the two of you to just hand over that book. I've been working pretty hard to get my hands on it, and I'd really like this to go smoothly. Well, I'm afraid we answered the riddle, Tortuga says. Malachite joins in. Yeah, we answered the riddle, so it's ours. Now. There's no need for any hostility. I, of course, am ready to trade for it, the man says, with a strange, smug smile dancing across his face. After all, I'm not after everything. You can keep the gems and, of course, the magic blade. But I think you might be interested in these, he says, as he pulls from his belt a pair of metal goblets. You'd probably find that sword of yours quite hard to use without these. And so I'm offering you a trade. 2 magic items in exchange for that journal there. Ah, Lotus. Nice. Response, Tortuga and Malachite begin moving into a tighter formation. Now. That doesn't seem quite appropriate, would you say? In a flash, the man moves up to within 10 feet of them, leaving behind a blurred trail. Tortuga is shocked for a moment. Tortuga is fast. He has always prided himself on his speed, on his ability to cross a battlefield quickly, to dart in and out without being hit. But this man is impossibly fast. Crazy sad. Nice. Terramon? Nice. For a blink of an eye, this man had crossed over 100 feet in less than 6 seconds. I think the 2 of you should consider my offer. Darness? Nice. Well, what's your name, then? You can call me Quickling, if you must. Oh, Quickling! Is that what all the girls call you? Malachite says, looking at the man. There's a moment of silence as the man referring to himself as Quickling begins chuckling to himself. Well, aren't you antagonistic? Well, you just showed up out of nowhere and told us to give you this. Well, not just to give. I was going to offer you my magic gauntlet here in exchange. With that, the man darts back, almost 100 feet in a near instant, pulling out the goblets and placing them on the ground beside him. Why, does that not sound like a fair deal? Malachite looks at Tortuga. Tortuga looks back at her. I kind of like more magic stuff, she says. Tortuga looks down at the journal in his hand and up at the strange Quickling figure. Impossibly fast, obviously enchanted, with that strange aura about him. Tortuga begins to consider if he really could fight this man. All options seem to be slowly being cut off. If you could please hurry up, the man says. And Tortuga hears the opportunity. I'm in a bit of a rush here, you see. I've been running around those shepherds for quite a while now, and I think we're close to running out of time. What do you mean? Well, I think you met the orchard just recently, but they're only part of the cursed orchard, you see. For they are all moved about by a few fellas known as the cursed shepherds, and they're much less friendly, you see. Now I've been spending the better part of the week running those fools in circles to buy me this opportunity. So you're telling me you only have a few minutes, Tortuga says. Around that amount of time. Well then, in that case, I think we'll try our chances. I've been looking forward to having a bit of a fight. With that, Tortuga grabs up his quarterstaff begins assuming a battle stance. Malachite looks at Tortuga and over at the strange elf. You are very cute, she says, but I do like a good fight. And so she draws her own weapons and drops low into a crouch. Well then, I suppose I'll have to make this quick, says the quickling, as he draws a pair of daggers that move in impossibly blurred imagery. Unable to focus on them, Tortuga knows that this man is too dangerous for him to fight. I'll try to make this an interesting fight. As the quickling drops into his crouch and seems to be on the instant of darting towards them, Tortuga mutters a phrase under his breath. The first teaching of the first master. Remain in darkness, for there others cannot hurt you, and you will not be driven to hurt others. With a seeming silent prayer, an eruption of darkness emanates from Tortuga. A cloud of magical shadow envelops him and Malachite, blinding both them and the quickling standing away from them from being able to spot their exact position. The cloud stretches outwards, enveloping a good 20-foot radius sphere around the pair, wrapping them in the protection of darkness. Now there is an interesting choice, my friend. The two in the darkness cannot see the figure, but they hear his darting movements as he seems to circle about the shadows, looking to see if there's a way to peer in, or waiting for one of the two of them to make a break from the darkness. In the back of his mind, Tortuga knows he can only maintain this for 10 minutes, but hopefully the party will get here in time. And then another voice joins him in the back of his mind. The voice he recognizes. The voice of the strange, vampiric master that has appeared to him in visions. A clever choice, Tortuga, to avoid conflict with this man and to embrace the way of the first master. Tortuga finds himself falling to his knees and entering a meditative state to maintain the darkness for as long as possible. And he keeps his eyes and ears pierced for the moment the darkness will fade, or the moment that their friends might arrive. The minutes stretch on, longer and longer, until eventually hoofbeats can be heard in the distance. Valandria, riding out ahead of the rest of the party, sees in the distance a massive sphere of shadows and a strange, elvish man standing in a clearing looking at it. She draws her horse to a slow trot and then a stop as she jumps from it, drawing her weapons out. The man looks over his shoulder at her and turns about, and in those movements, Valandria recognizes a fellow dancer. And the man's masked face gives away nothing, but then he begins to say, "Now that is interesting. I was under the impression there were no more displacers. Bit of a new convert, I guess. I have only recently been learning." Well, that is very interesting. Valandria, don't trust him. He's fast as fuck. says the voice of Tortuga from the middle of the shadowy orb. Well, you heard my friend. I apparently cannot trust you. Well, that's interesting, as I was simply wanting to offer up a deal. I had a couple of magical items I was hoping to trade for a journal your friend has gotten his hands on. Is that right? And what might be in that journal? Oh, some old news. A record of a past teacher of one of the schools. Something many people might be very interested in. And I'll admit, maybe someone trying to reawaken one of the schools would immediately. Valandria starts shaking her head. Listen, friend, I don't know how into all of the religious or spiritual bullcrap you are, but I just wanted to learn a new combat style. I am not so devoted to the way of the dancer as you seem to think. Well then. The journal is from an old master, telling his life and times. I was willing to trade a few magical items in exchange for it. Valandria looks over at the orb of shadows beside her, and back at the man. What do you two think? I don't think we can fight him, Tortuga says. Then, I suppose I would like to accept your deal, Valandria says. That is very pleasant of you, says the quickling. You see him draw out the two goblets and place them in the nook of a tree beside him. They're all yours, as soon as I get my hands on that journal. Valandria turns to the orb of shadows beside her. Tortuga? If you would please. Slowly the darkness begins to fade, as Tortuga and Malachite are revealed. There's a look of concern and a bit of irritation on Tortuga's face, as he looks down at the mysterious sylvan journal in his hands. That will be it, my friend. Just place it down on the ground, and we can finish our deal. Tortuga looks at Valandria, whose eyes are locked on the quickling, and he looks at Malachite, who seems a bit baffled by everything that's going on. His eyes rest down at the journal. There's something dangerous in here. Something they shouldn't give up. But looking across the clearing at this strange figure, Tortuga feels like he doesn't have the proper assistance here to fully fight for it. Slowly, hesitantly, Tortuga places the tome on the ground, as the voice behind him states, "Well, thank you very much." The silvery trail had instantly formed from where the quickling had previously been to right next to Tortuga. As the figure bends down and picks the book up, he then darts around Tortuga and Malachite over to the side of Valandria. "And thank you very much, my dear. By the way, you should know not to go affirming the fact that you are a displacer to others of our kind. It tends to be a bit of animosity between some of the groups." With that, the figure darts away into the woods, in mere seconds, being lost in between the trees, save for that momentary silvery trail that comes behind him. Well then, Valandria says, I suppose we should grab those. She points to the two goblets set in the tree. And could the two of you tell me who the fuck that was? That's Quickling, my new boyfriend, says Malachite, as she walks across the clearing and grabs up the goblets. You'll know what? Well, he was really cute and he threatened me, so I think that makes him my boyfriend. Malachite places away the magic items. Right, Tortuga says, looking off in the distance of where the man had disappeared. I think we should get going. Just as he says that, footsteps can be heard in the distance, the metal clunk of armor, as Pharaoh and Perch emerge from the wood at a full sprint. We are here, Pharaoh says. Yeah, we just made it, Perch says, beginning to catch his breath. We're leaving, Tortuga says. Ah, damn it, Perch says as he puts away his weapon. All right, what did we miss? Well, you see, Tortuga begins. Then he grows quiet as a warm wind begins to push between the trees. Perhaps warm is the wrong description. Wind, too, gives the incorrect feeling. Imagine instead a muggy room, that moment where you step in, where the humidity can be felt, and it is stale, a stagnant air. It does not so much blow through them as suddenly crawl up their backs, grip the hair on their necks, and flow over them like the washing of a wave. All eyes turn in the direction of this strange, stagnant air, as darkness seems to gather in the distance. Peering between the trees, the party sees a strange, tall figure marching towards them, wrapped in moss and rotting plant matter. The trees around them begin to twitch, their branches shaking, their twigs moving rapidly like spider legs. Suddenly, a tree branch reaches out and attempts to grab at Tortuga, who darts out of its way. Run, is all Tortuga says, before he begins darting back in the way of the woods. The strange figure cutting through the trees towards them, the air growing more murky, more humid, more dark, and cursed. The party turn and begin running away as the cursed shepherd gives chase. And that is where we will be ending today's story time. With a cursed shepherd on their heels, the forest beginning to turn against them, questions arise in the party. Who are the dancers? What was in that journal they traded away? And what are the properties of this newly acquired sword? All will be approached during our next story time. But, I'd just like to say, how is everybody doing? How did you all enjoy today's story time? And what is going on in chat? Will be a great waifu? What did I miss? We got a lot of viewers today, I just noticed. Hell yeah, I think we got a lot of people lurking in and enjoying a good story time. Hello, lurkers. Please do not feel pressured to chat if that's not what you're here for, but I hope you all did enjoy today's Dungeons and Dragons story time. Sounds like a threat, Marcial. We still need more viewers. I say 150 to 210. Hell yeah, darn ass. Let's get ourselves there. Well, Succubus Eric is the waifu. Okay. I have no Discord, I have Discord, but not on my laptop. Okay. Like 5 minutes. All right. If Eric is merciful, I believe he is. Oh no, is the succubus ready? Just a tippy tap, tip tap more, and we will be ready. To match the cursed forest, I play the cursed tardibus. Oh god. So mad it was such a good plan. Ah, Tortuga, it was a great plan. So Lotus, like I said, was the character who played Tortuga. And we had ended the session before with the arrival of the Quickling. And Tortuga had spent the entire week thinking about how dangerous this person is and how best to avoid a proper fight with them, and ended up with the plan of using the darkness spell to wrap himself in shadows so that they could avoid a direct fight. But it was pretty fucking awesome. Probably Blade Song wizards with various schools. Exactly, Little Pink Bowser. If you want to know, within the lore of my world, the Blade Singers are known as the Blade Dancers, and they have formed into three main groups of school, actually. Let's see if I can pull up those details if you would like to know. Yeah, they are the Dawn Court, the Dusk Court, and the Twilight Court. Within each court, there are groups of dancers that are named after creatures of the Feywild, including the blink dogs, the salamanders, the unicorn, the treant, the displacers, the meanlocks, the ropers, the quicklings, the will-o'-the-wisps, and the forlorn, all of which possess their own personalities, their own preferred spells and strategies, all of which are dangerous wielders of magic. Oh, I might need to crop and upload. Are we ready? Hell yeah, I'm excited. It was great. Still working on the miniatures, but I doubt you'd be interested in my poor skills. Aw. Honestly, Love Doctor, if you are in the Discord, I encourage you to post up anything you make, pictures or renditions, designs, or anything within our art channel on the Discord. I love seeing everybody's creations, whether it's homebrew designs, artwork, ideas, or anything you're making. So please do not hesitate to hop on into the Disc. Yeah, there's a Discord. Apparently the command I posted got messed up somewhere. So I'll go ahead and grab the invite for you so you can go ahead and check it out. But there you go. Let's hear. We need the Monday bot. You guys are really on that Monday bot. I guess I can look into it. I'm really not sure what it is or if it'll fit, but I'll look into it and see. If anybody wants to go ahead to the suggestion section of the Discord and post up a link for that so I can better see what it is, I'll go ahead and take a look at that. I think invite links are by default temporary. Okay, thank you, Little Pink Bowser. That'd work. I've only ever heard of darkness used in niche scenarios. I actually used it once to assist getting out of a cultist dungeon. It is a useful spell if you can figure out the best ways to get around it, or when you have a warlock with a vision capable of piercing magical darkness. All right, Marcial, all right. So you said we've got this posted somewhere. Am I looking at Twitter? Okay. Then hit me up with the tardy art tag, and I'll go ahead and get on Twitter and try to find this thing so I can share the cursed succubus tardigrade for everyone to see. All right, all right. While I'm looking around, though, I do want to give everybody a great big thank you for joining us for story time. I do hope you all had fun and enjoyed the tale of the cursed orchard. Oh my God. Marcial. Marcial, I, I'm, oh shit, Darnest, nice. Crazy Seth, nice. Lotus Flower, nice. V the Sleepy Bunny? Nice. Terramon? Nice. Sun? Nice. Now then, give me a moment, because I guess we're doing a little bit of sour cake. Nice. A little bit of show and tell, I suppose. Oh, God. Oh, why? Alright, is everyone braced? For a bit of context for everybody, chat has pressured one of our favorite creators, Marciel Little Pink, nice, to create a new costume for me. A new tardigrade outfit. And everybody wanted to see tardigrade as a succubus. And so Marciel has worked diligently to provide us with his rendition of what the tardy succubus would look like. And this is what we've got here. I'm so I don't know what to fucking do. How to it I'm chilled to my bone. I'm terrified. Everything's just there's just so much. There's just so much here that everybody, I'd like to wish you all a good night. Because I'd like to say I hope to see you all next weekend as we get ourselves back into Mass Effect and the next part of our story time, where we'll see how the party tries to deal with the cursed shepherd and arriving in Taverfia. Also, everybody, please keep your eyes out on the suggestion area of the Discord, as I have been mulling around a few different ideas of maybe some things we would be able to do throughout the normal week, instead of waiting all the way to the weekend for all of us to hang out again. But for now, I need to recover from seeing some things. So thank you all for arriving. Thank you for your support. And Marciel, actually, before I end, I do have something for you. Something I think you have earned, that I don't think anyone would disagree with. As I wish you all a good night, Marciel, for your hard work in creating this. Please enjoy your tier 3 sub and the new emote that's gonna come with that. Please feel free to drop the tardy drip as we all head off to do what we must after seeing this. Good night to you all, and I hope to see you again real soon.